Hey guys, it's January 2nd. I'd mentioned to somebody that I was going to start doing. It's interesting. I don't want to make a copy of a copy of a copy and make it so faint that it lacks any kind of substance. But a little bit of a commentary. My goal is to distill down some of the daily devotionals that Chambers put together. He deals with a different passages of scripture every day, and he gives commentary on it and deals with a focal point. And so my goal is to just distill that down a little bit. What I got out of it, maybe it's helpful to you guys. Hopefully it is. So January 1st, I'm going to do two today. It was the second, and I didn't get a chance to do it yesterday. So I'm going to try to do it every day. We'll see. We'll see how this works. But January 1st, he deals with Philippians 1:20, talks about Paul. In speaking to the Philippian church, it starts this way: my eager desire and hope being that I may never feel ashamed. And it's interesting that Paul talks about not feeling ashamed, because that seems like a selfish desire. And it is a little bit. And so I think, okay, where does that take Paul in this passage? And the way Chambers deals with it is, what will bring me shame? I want to make sure my desire is that I'll never feel ashamed. And the shame that Paul's talking about is the shame of exercising his own will and doing his own thing and getting his own results, as opposed to surrendering his will, yielding, and getting the result of what God would do with his life. So just a couple key points. It's interesting that he talks about, Chambers does, even if it costs others. Sometimes that's our excuse not to surrender our will completely, is it could cost other people. It could cost my mom and dad if I move away. It could cost my, other people in my life if I sacrifice close relationships with them to do something that is what God would have me do. And the way Chambers puts it is, he knows all things. So if that's what he calls you to do, surrender your will, which is what he calls all of us to do, by the way, surrender our will. That's the one thing. Chambers comes back to it, and I'll as we get to it in other days, he comes back to it again and again and again. Surrendering will is kind of that underlying theme of Chambers' teachings, I think, is what does it take to surrender our will? What do we get when we surrender our will? Even if it costs other people, God knows. God knows, and he'll take care of that. And then he talks about, we start to debate, when we're thinking about surrendering our will, we start to debate the finer points of whether we should or how we should, and when that happens, the way Chambers puts it is a providential crisis. God basically inserts into our lives, and then we have to decide: am I going to do this, or am I going to not do this? Am I going to surrender my will, or am I not? And then the way Chambers puts it is, from that point, whether it's yes or no, the great divide begins. And I think it's a really interesting point. When we stop and say, okay, I'll surrender, then God can take us down a path that we wouldn't have chosen for ourselves, and that we can't even see where it's going to go. But other than that, if we do not surrender, we go down our own path. And that's where, the way I put it is, that great divide is what God will do with my life or what I will do with my life. So I'll leave you that today. I'm going to do another for January 2nd, but that is just a kind of distilled version of the January 1st, my utmost for his highest devotional. Thanks, guys.